You are at Lake Rant, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one is for Noob600, who says, rant about why some people only watch Fate Zero and don't give a shit about anything else Fate related. Alternatively, rant about the differences between Gen Urobuchi and Kinoko Nasu as writers. There's two sides to this, really, because I don't think that the Fate Zero phenomenon has really much to do with the rest of the Fate franchise being like bad or people not liking it taste wise. It has more to do with the time and place and the quality of the anime adaptation. Because the original Fate visual novel, while very popular, especially with Japanese otaku, came out at a time when visual novels were not coming to America. They were not getting wide releases. Like it's still never had a proper US release. It is only exists in fan translations, and you have to be, as a Westerner, a pretty deep lore anime fan to even really know about visual novels or to have ever played one. I would say that's like a fraction of the anime viewing public would have done that. And particularly to even know how to find like the English version of the game, you have to be a part of some kind of internet community to really know about something like that. So I don't think there's a ton of Western otaku who have actually read Fate Stay Night or any of its sequels. I don't even think all of them are translated. So they might be now because it's such a massive franchise. But like, so that was part of it, and then the original Fate Stay Night anime sucked, and nobody likes it. So nobody's gonna tell you to go back and watch that from 2006. Most anime fans do not go back and watch old shows anyways. Like even Fate Zero is probably getting to a point where it's gonna be relegated as like an older series that's becoming forgotten. That aired in 2011, and that's already kind of becoming ancient history to a lot of newer anime fans. Like, if it ain't Madoka, they're not gonna be paying attention to it. So, but nonetheless, there's a huge difference between an anime coming out in 2006 versus 2011 because we're at the start of the boom in streaming live, like the streamed anime simulcasting. I think Fate Zero was translated like on Crunchyroll or something like that. It had a pretty wide release. Well, it was being broadcasted on like Nico Nico Doga online. I know that much. I don't remember how fast the subtitles came out, but it did not take long for it to get licensed and released and to have subs. I think it might have even been on Netflix from like a pretty early point. So like it's widely available. The average anime fan can find it and watch it. And it's self-contained enough that you can appreciate it entirely by itself. So I think a lot of people probably just don't even know about the rest of the Fate franchise, and even if they do, it seems like this unwieldy nightmare. There's just so much to it. If you don't want to play a visual novel that's like 80 hours long in multiple paths, if you don't want to, try to decipher this massive clusterfuck of narrative, then it's difficult to get any further into it. And granted, when the Unlimited Blade Works anime came out, I think that expanded that fan base massively. A lot more people got into it because that was a really successful, really popular show that had a lot of the same properties as Fate Zero, the slick production values and all that, is what drew a lot of people to the series in the first place. So, that's why Fate has become a lot more popular, why there are a lot more people who don't just watch Fate Zero. But, I think for the people who loved Fate Zero who have difficulty getting into the rest of it, it's because so much of Fate is so lore-driven, especially with the newer incarnations that are really just about getting lost in the lore of it. And, like, with Fate Zero, the story was mostly about ideals. The way Gen Urobuchi writes characters is that he writes them around, like, philosophical principles, basically. I mean, you can see the same thing in Psycho-Pass or Madoka, where each character basically represents their stance, their way that they see the world, and it's about the competition of worldviews, about exploring the limitations of these different people's ideas. And that's why, like, the most interesting scene in Fate Zero is the Banquet of Kings. Now, I mean, if you like Fate Zero primarily for the cool action, for the Holy Grail War, you probably liked Unlimited Blade Works just as much. But if you liked it more for the dialogue and the characterization, it's going to have a different feel. And it's not that there's not any themes or ideals in Fate Stay Night, it's just that it's structured more like a mystery story. A lot more is just about, like, characterizing the personalities of the characters rather than their ideals. It's not really presented as a competition of ideals in the way that Fate Zero is right from the start. So, I like that Gen Urobuchi approach to writing. The Nasu approach has its strengths in that he can write some compelling, like, world building, and some of his characters are memorable, and the twists and turns in the story are memorable, but you kind of have to get like a certain distance into it to really get to the moments where some of that stuff pays off. The early parts of his stories are slow and plodding and fucking boring, in a way that Urobuchi, again, he's interesting right off the bat, in my opinion anyways. So, I think that's basically the gist of it. It's that Fate Zero is more accessible, easier to get into at an earlier point. It isn't leaden down with too much of the lore. It's not complicated to consume because you don't have to worry about, like, what takes place in what order. Even if you do want to watch Unlimited Blade Works, just knowing that it's like part two of the story is confusing enough in itself. So yeah, I would say that's basically why.